This lesson is all about how to make histograms. More specifically, your learning target is I can create and analyze a histogram. So there's some steps in creating your histogram. First, we need to have a template drawn out so that we can create the graph on it. So we need an X and a Y axis, and of course those are going to need some labels. Then we have to look at our data. You're going to have a range of values because a histogram shows continuous data. These ranges need to be put side by side on the x-axis. Then you're going to determine what you need to count by for intervals going up the y-axis. And then you're ready for your bars. You're going to draw your bars in to represent your data, but you have to make sure they touch. This is continuous data. There are no gaps. And finally, we're going to give your graph a title. At the end of this presentation, you're going to need to show me your work for the next 4 slides. You're going to do that in your notebook. So when you bring me your notebook, we'll go through those 4 slides, and then I will give you the assessment that will be a classwork grade. Okay, so let's go ahead and make a histogram for the following data. You're going to notice that for this data, we're looking at how many siblings students have. So our very first step is to draw in our axes. We have to have something to make our graph on. This one is our X, and this is our Y, of course. Let me change my size of my pen. In a table, this is my X data, followed by my Y data, and you'll notice that I already have labels written out for me. So my X data, my label is number of siblings, and for my Y data, I'm going to have the frequency. So now it looks like I'm all set. I can go ahead and start figuring out the numbers that are going to go into my my graph, my histogram. So I need some frequencies between 0 and 1, 0 and 1, and then from 2 to 3, and then from 4 to 5, and finally from 6 to 7. Going up the side, I need up to 9 in my frequency. So I think if I start at 0, I can go ahead and count by ones until I get up to 9. All right. So my first bar says that 9 students have between 0 and 1 siblings. All right. So between 0 and 1, there are 9 kids. So I'm just going to color in that bar to show between 0 and 1, there are 9 students. All right, let me change my color here for a second. All right, then it says that 7 students have between 2 and 3. So 7 students are between 2 and 3. I'm going to go ahead and color in my bar. Notice my bars are touching because I have continuous data. All right, I have changed my color again. There are 2 students that have between 4 and 5 siblings. So 2 students, 4 to 5 siblings. And finally, I have just 1 student with 6 to 7. All right, let me get that colored in. All right, so it looks like my histogram is missing just one thing, and that's the title. So let's just call this number of siblings. All right, so you'll notice a couple of things. It sort of looks like a bar graph, but it's continuous data, so my bars must be touching. The other thing is that at the bottom, I don't have single numbers, I have ranges of numbers. Here's our next data, and I notice that I have a typo on here because I look and my data is not continuous. I missed 6. So let me change that really fast for us. We're going to go 0 to 2, 3 to 5, and then I want you to change this. This is going to be 6 to 8. which makes this one 9 to 11. All right, using this data, I want you to make a histogram. First, you've got to get your axes. Make sure you've got labels. Then you're going to decide numbers to put on your graph so that you can draw your bars. Remember, they have to touch. And then finally, you are going to get a title. So I want you to do this on your own. And when you are ready, I want you to come back and check with me to see how well you did. All right, here's mine. So I've got my number of hours on the bottom and my frequency on the side. You have to have those labels because I'm going to look for those. Those are going to be part of your grade. And then I have my first bar. 7 students are on their cell between 0 and 2 hours per day. My purple bar, 11 students were on their cell between 3 and 5 hours a day. My green bar shows that 13 students are on their cell between 6 and 8 hours per day. And my black bar shows 6 students are on their cells between 9 and 11 hours per day. And then I have a title, of course, hours on my cell phone. Now that you know how to make a histogram, let's see if you can analyze or read one. So here we have the heights of black cherry trees. We have the frequency as our Y, and we have the height of the tree as our X. And notice we have 6 different ranges. The low end is 60 and the high end is 90. All right, it says how many black cherry trees were used in this survey? So it's nice that we're counting by twos because my halfway point would be a 3. So it looks like there were 3 trees here, 3 trees here, 8 here, 10, 5, and 2. So if I added those up, it looks like I'd have about 31, I believe, 31 trees in the survey. Question number 2 says, how many of the trees were at least 70 feet, but not more than 85 feet tall? So let's see, at least 70 means that one's out, that one's out. Okay, so right here we're starting at 70 feet, but I don't want it more than 85, so that one's out as well. So I'm just looking between 70, at least 70, and not more than 85. So if I added these up, I believe that would be 23 trees. And then the mode of the data, again, is which range happened most often. And most of these trees are between 75 and 80 feet tall. All right, last slide for your notebook. I want you to go ahead and read or analyze this graph, answering questions 1, 2, and 3. When you are ready to check them, turn me back on. So go ahead and pause me. As I was working through this, I noticed that we didn't really have a very good label on the bottom, so I added % down there. All right, so for question number 1, how many students were used in this survey? I went through and I wrote on the bar how many students each bar represented. When I added those up, I had 39 students. Question 2, how many of the students passed the exam with a score of 60 or higher? Well, that eliminates this person, these people, this person. And so when I added up the rest of who had 60% or higher, that was 33 students. And then, of course, I'm looking for the mode, which is the range that happened most often, and that's between 80 and 90%. Okay, it's now time to bring me your notebook. You're going to show me your work on the last 4 slides. I'll look through it. If it looks great, I will give you the assessment worksheet. This is going to count as a classwork grade today.